This is the Job Stories Podcast, how people find work that matters. For being on the Job Stories Podcast, we appreciate you coming on today. If you don't mind to get us started, what is your job now? What are you currently working on, and for who?
Hey, Mason. So it's great to be here, first off. But so I am the CEO and co-founder of Labelcoin, where we're building the Robin Hood for music to stamp out artistic poverty.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about kind of what that looks like for you. As a CEO and founder, I kind of want to get into it a little bit. What's your kind of day-to-day looking like building a new business? Because I'm leading you a little bit. Our audience is a little twofold. We do recruiting, right? We do tech recruiting, but we have a lot of candidate base, but we also have a lot of entrepreneurs that come on. So I want to kind of touch both sides. So talk a little bit about what entrepreneurship's been like for you and what you're doing building Labelcoin.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think with any startup, a new company, it always kind of goes in sections, like what you're working on and kind of focus building out. And so, we're about a year in right now. And so, initially that was just me and my co-founder working on essentially, do we have an idea that works in that product design and testing, doing the opportunity analysis. And then once we decided, hey, this actually does make a lot of sense, we should go down this route. Then a lot of it transitioned into kind of in parallel partnership development, finding the people that we want to work with, that we need to work with to execute our idea and to start building out the team, but also to actually flesh out take from idea, okay, here's what we plan to do. And then how do we actually make that happen, And so that went into even as detailed as flow charts for the engineers to know, okay, when you click here, here are the three things that can happen, or so sometimes I go into that space because I would love to hire even more people right now, and look forward to hiring more very, very soon. But because right now I wear a lot of hats. So
yeah, that's awesome. So tell me how this came about for you. Like, how did the entrepreneurship path come? And obviously, you've got some music in your background. So how did it kind of come about?
My first company was when I was 12. My brother and I started a vending machine company.
Cool.
And that was just my dad had hired us from the time I was like 10 to clean his office. He's like, well, I think we can teach our kids how to do this and pay them. He's a chiropractor and has a medical office. And so we started saving from that point on. And then he's like, had a patient who said, hey, I'm selling some vending machine accounts if you know anybody. And so my dad's like, hey, guys, do you want to start a business? So my brother and I did, and at first they had to drive us to the locations, and then but it just never stopped from that point on. Really, I've had very few actual jobs with where I'm getting paid by somebody else.
Yeah,
and I'm 38 now, so it's been that journey. So, but on the music side, specifically with Labelcoin, I became a musician right out of college. So I had already started working on my first album in Nashville, and then started playing small house show venue stuff 2005, and kept doing that. So I met my wife in 2010, and it didn't stop. Then it accelerated because on our honeymoon, she told me she wanted to quit her job and join me in music full time.
Nice.
And I said, okay, that's awesome. And we need a new business plan. and so we pivoted a bit within that and found our niche in college market, especially playing a lot of universities and colleges. And so that evolved, by 2016, we had our second child, and we chose to get off the road and help other people that were way more talented do what we did. And so we started a booking agency, and we've worked with since then, I think 75, 80 different artists and speakers, and helping book them around and doing artist development as well. And so that's what I was doing up until COVID. And we still have that agency. It's still operating, but my team runs it mostly. But during COVID, that's when I met my co-founder, Chad Peterson, who was a Wall Street guy. So he was an investment banker, a VC investor. And so he ended up moving to Nashville. And he was previously back in New York and back in the Wall Street world when 2008 hit, which for the people in the finance world, that was the black market. Everybody lost their jobs and the markets crashed. And it was devastating for a lot of people, and Chad included. So he started a nonprofit to help his friends and the people that he knew basically pull their lives back together, called Wall Street Exodus. And so fast forward to Nashville, he's here during COVID and in Music City, and he just happens to, when he sees what's happening with COVID, how all the tours are getting canceled, musicians are losing their jobs. He's like, man, this looks a whole lot like Wall Street 2008, and how can I help? And so he's like, well, I don't know a whole lot about music, but I can start a nonprofit. And so he did that, got a giant grant, started helping musicians, and that's how we got connected. Is someone said, "Hey, you should talk with Mark, and he might be able to help you with helping the musicians and different things." And so we met, and he had and so so many opportunities happen when we are just saying yes to the ones in front of us, and and serving people well, and then it just kind of evolves, and so he shared this idea he had with me of securitizing music. Like, hey, what would happen for these artists long term if we could look at their future income, put some kind of value on it, and bring it forward to now and let people invest in it? And I'm like, okay, that's fascinating. I feel like there's more there. Like, I feel like what would happen if we take this into the blockchain world? Because I've been getting pretty deep into the crypto space at that point, and then also focus on songs specifically. So we maximize the freedom of artists and what they're, how much they're giving up, and letting them stay in control of their futures, but still creating this amazing, powerful mechanism where they can actually earn living wages way earlier in their career than they normally would. And so that's how Labelcoin was born.
Yeah, so much of that's amazing. But the first thing that's coming to mind is, I mean, you found a really cool, it sounds like a solution for maybe some problems that you had early on as a musician. Is that ringing true? I mean, do you feel like you're helping the younger you maybe with Labelcoin? Do you know what I'm getting at?
Completely. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And did that come from just? I think you mentioned just saying yes, right? Is that because I'm seeing some advice for maybe entrepreneurs out there, or even candidates, like just kind of going for it, right? And you stumble into doing some really impactful stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It comes from saying yes, and the funny thing is, it also sometimes comes from saying no.
Yeah.
Because like I wanted to help artists from early on, and when I got married, but that's part of my business plan. Failed model as an artist was that I was always helping out other people, and I was not focusing on my own stuff. Yeah, and so I'd always put mine on the back burner while other people can go forward. And Heather, my wife, is like, I love that your heart is to help all these other people, but you need to figure out yourself first and your stuff. And so I had to say no to a lot of the ways that I knew I could help other people or do things or just input. And it's like, okay, I got to figure out my things. I got to get good at what I'm doing. And then, and that was what allowed us to actually build our career and get it to where we were in a position to where we learned a ton and we could actually then apply it. And so then when 2016 came around, it's like, hey, now is the time to really put our heart and soul into helping other artists succeed. That's when that started. So, but yeah, it did lead it. And so I've always seen those problems, and I want to avoid that. Like, for example, right now, the way that artists tend to get by is by what we've coined fan handling, running Kickstarters or Patreons, or, begging people for money, like, please fund my next album and help me get from point A to point B. And, I remember vividly spending an entire summer making 60 ceramic handmade mugs and,
for Kickstarter or something like that.
Yeah, Kickstarter, all that stuff. Yeah. Totally, I probably made like $3.75 an hour for that. And I'm so grateful for all those people, and yet, like, that's a terrible business model. And I don't want, artists need to be able to do what they're meant to do, and it's kind of silly that it can take people 10 years into their career before they're making a living wage they can raise a family on, and how many people can actually stick it out to get that far and make it that way. So yeah, it is. You see the problems, you see where things can get solved, and then you're like, hey, when you come up with that solution, then I mean that's what's best. You can see what's needed because you experienced it, and you just get to bring it to the people who need it.
Yeah, and I think your market is just, again, it's because it's been your world, but like music is. I mean, my wife's full-time music. I mean, it's gnarly. Like, you just have to figure out ways to make money. And again, a lot of the business models out there for that just probably aren't real great. So you're really solving a problem for a community that for sure needs it. And I think that's really cool. And can you explain a little bit more, just high level for our blockchain crowd? So dive a little bit more into how Labelcoin's utilizing that to help musicians.
Yeah, totally. I won't go super deep into all the
High
tech
level.
on this time, but but essentially, what we're using smart contracts and blockchain as like the framework that everything runs on. But what we're doing is we're building a song exchange. So an app where you don't have to know how to use NFTs or sell on OpenSea or anything like that. The artist is able to sell their digital streaming royalties, and we help them value that based upon a whole lot of metrics and an algorithm. And then they choose their value. The fan is going to see on those digital streaming royalties. They're gonna be able to see, okay, what's our value? What is how much data went into this value? As like a confidence meter. What is the artist selling it for? And then they're gonna see one other really important metric, and that's how many spins or like how many listens would it take for me to get X return on my investment. So if I want to get a 10% APR, would this song would have to get 100,000 spins a year or 200,000 or whatever. And so it makes a kind of educated guess on that point. But what we're doing is we're allowing the artist to essentially bring like 10 years of their future income forward to now. So when people download the Labelcoin app, they'll be able to invest in songs, which that artist then earns 98% of that right up front. And then they're able to start earning those royalties and also be able to trade those songs again in the app. So if the song becomes more popular, they can of course, sell off their notes, their song shares. And then we have like features such as like a song mutual fund with curated collections where people can invest and put their $10 into one song or put it into 100 songs.
Cool.
And that's, great for the other people in the music industry or just people that are huge fans or music bloggers that are passionate but have not earned money either. It's not just gnarly for the musicians who are in this. It's the other people that treat music as a passion project. And like, how can we help them be able to make a living off of supporting the music industry and acknowledging their roles? And so like there's pieces like that. So we just imagine a world basically where you're at a show like, hey, if you love that song, you own part of it.
Yeah.
and right there, hey, put in $10, put in $20. And that just like changes everything for the artist, but also gives fans a really cool new way to engage and creates really a new asset class.
Totally. That is so cool. I asked on behalf of that because I selfishly I'm thinking in terms of a cool clip later because I'd like for my music friends to see this. So that was kind of selfish for me. Back to you. You started on your kind of like entrepreneurship journey at 12 years old. So we talk a lot about mentorship or maybe in another case like inspiration. Have you had a mentor? Maybe it was your dad or I don't know. Who's kind of helped you along the way kind of shape who you are today at 38?
I've had so many. I will often say that I'm the sum of 100 people that have poured into my life, and those aren't all voluntary mentors. Sometimes there are people that I listen to, or people that I just ask questions. I ask a lot of questions when I'm with people, and I love learning. Yeah, but I do seek it out. Like whenever I'm like, hey, I'm stuck in this spot, or I don't know how to do something, or I realize I'm really poorly qualified in this area. I'm like, okay, who around me is good at this, and who can I ask questions about? And it's amazing, like how many people, like if you're a hungry learner, there are tons of people that would want to share and want to help you because they've been through it and they love to help you get to that next level. So I couldn't say just one person. In different seasons of life, it's been a lot of different folks. But I'm always seeking out new ones, and it never stops.
Yeah.
But one book that I would say that was a long-term, I guess long distance mentor I've never met is Michael Hyatt, who wrote a book called Free to Focus. And that's one book that I got 2 chapters into it, and I bought a copy for my entire team, and we went through it together for 6 weeks. And then I took a lot of our artists through it as well. And I still stand by this statement that I would have gladly paid $5,000 to go back to the start of my career as an artist and read that book first.
Wow. Cool.
And so, there's lots of lots of people to learn from.
Yeah, so you touched on it. You're very curious. You like to ask questions and learn. And is that something that you're instilling as you're growing your teams at Labelcoin? I'm asking. I think this is on behalf of candidates now. Like I'd
Mm.
like get an insight of what a founder at a cool tech startup in music, kind of what they're thinking whenever they're building out their teams. Right? It seems like you'd like to have folks that are eager to learn, ask a lot of questions, things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I wouldn't say I necessarily look for imprints of myself
Yeah.
in that sense necessarily. Um, I love that attribute. I mean, we all tend to like people like ourselves, I guess, but
Yeah.
it's great to have people that are different and that challenge you differently too. But the things that we look for are, definitely open, honest communication is a big part of that, which is some of that curiosity. Like we want to have that open dialogue, and I want to know. And it goes back to that book a little bit. I want to find people that and put them in roles where they're both passionate and they're proficient. And that's what I want most of their work to be. Of course, startups, sometimes we have to pull different directions and not every day is full of all the stuff that we love. But by and large, that's where I want people, like I want to hire people that, hey, this isn't just a check in, check out for you. Like, yes, this is not your top priority. You have a life outside of work, and that's more important than your work life. But when you're here, I want you to love it. And I
Yeah.
want you to, be like, this is what I was made to do. And so trying to find those people that are both, love it and are great at it. But then, yeah, we want to find people that are that take initiative, and that's part of that curiosity. I love people that aren't just waiting to be told what to do all the time, but can see, hey, there's a problem here, and I want to solve it. Like how could and are able to think from other people's perspectives. And so that's one that that culturally, we want people that are looking out for the interests of others. And so if you're that type of person, you're looking and you're trying to understand from someone else's perspective. And so we want people that can look at it and understand the business. We want to share that. We share it very openly. We're very open with our numbers, with our goals, with those things like that, because we want people to understand, okay, so here's where the business is. Here's where we're trying to get it to go. And then that way they can make better decisions as employees, like that help us towards that, and think, okay, well, what if we did this? Or okay, what you asked me to do actually probably isn't the best way. What if we did it this way? It allows us to actually grow more as a team.
Yeah, I love those thoughts. And we were talking to there's a founder who's on the podcast too here in Nashville named Derek Brown. He has a company called Bunches, but he was talking about in the Web3 and blockchain space too, how fast it's changing and having folks that are pretty adaptable as well, especially on the tech side. Is that something you've found true for y'all as well?
Oh, it definitely is. All the time. And I think that's probably to your point on learning and growing as well, because I don't necessarily hire somebody based upon are they that yeah up on all the latest tech necessarily, but are they wanting to learn, and are they looking forward to what that next thing is, and more about the foundations, right? Like graphic, like right now we're trying to find more graphics people, and on multiple levels. There's UI UX, there's this, like, your branding, social media stuff in general, and a lot of different elements that need to get done graphically. And so I want people that can are thinking about what's that trend, right? Okay, that font is very 2021. So let's think about what 2023 is going to be and what's happening specifically in the music and the tech space. What are we seeing? And then, so how do we look into that future? It's like, there's a producer that I love that a lot of my artists have worked with, named John Johnson. And one of the things that he likes to do is he'll bring in people and ask them, who's your favorite artist, that you're looking for. He's like, okay, great. Now let's try to make their next album, not their last album, not the one that you've already heard, but try to think about, who would this artist be on that next album, and try to create that. And so, like, looking at those forward thinking people that, hey, I want to be on the cutting edge. I want to stay up. And the reason that they're doing that is because they genuinely love it. Like, they love design. They love graphic design. They love marketing. They love branding. And so they're passionate and trying to find out what's coming up next. So, and that's true about every position, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Great insight. No, I appreciate it, Mark. I think we're kind of running up on time. So if it's okay, I'd like to give you a chance to, if there's a way folks can reach out to you to maybe ask more about Labelcoin or yourself, or how can they do that if anybody hears this and wants to touch base with you?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn's a great spot. Make sure you send me a message, so I know that you're a person that found me here or what you want to talk about. Because I don't always, if I haven't met you before and I don't get a message, I probably won't accept it. And I would love to get to know these people and love to get to know you, and just let me know what's up. And LinkedIn's great. But you can also follow us at Labelcoin all over different places. So
Perfect.
and again, it's Mark Miller. I think my tag is musically Mark on LinkedIn, I believe. But if you just search Mark Miller and Labelcoin, you'll find me.
Right at the top. Perfect. Thanks, Mark. This has been really cool. I appreciate your time. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you, Mason.
yeah, this is
It's been
so cool.
fun.
It's good to know you. I'm cheering y'all on. This is cool stuff. We're actually doing a next week here in Nashville, a local code review for smart contracts that Derek Brown's going to walk through some wacky smart contracts and go through the code. So there's going to be probably 20, 25, anyone interested, but they're like literally going to bring it's way over my head, but they're going to bring laptops and actually work through some code and smart contracts. So it's cool.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
This will be the second one we've done. We're going to do them every month, but it's a neat thing that's kind of growing here in Nashville. So we're rooting you on, man. That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Mason. I appreciate it.
Have a great day. We'll
Cool.
see you.
You too.
Bye.